Don't worry, everyone. Rosemary is just another 25 years away. So yeah, before we get to anything, let's talk about the series' second opening, which is probably one of my favorites that no one really talks about. I mean, sure, it's no masterpiece by any stretch, even in its own genre, but it still has a really fun song called Jig the Upper by Hoi Festa that nicely captures the more carefree and whimsical nature of this series. It also has a ton of great references, especially if you enjoyed the original series and classic robot anime, i.e. old otaku like me. In the case of the former, I really like these individual shots of each of the girls that ended with them wearing anime versions of their Super Zero costumes. Yeah, remember that time they put on some kind of lame yet still enjoyably cheesy costumes based on their favorite comic book heroes? Though unfortunately, there would never be an episode where we'd actually see these versions of the costumes in kind of sort of action. Pity, because I really do like the redesigns of these costumes, especially Kaoru's version of Mange. I mean, come on, when else are we gonna see an awesome anime version of Spawn? Okay, close enough, I guess. Thankfully, other references like the Powerpuff and Dynamo especially would work their way into the show proper. The latter was obviously referencing a certain super robot that Toei did do the anime adaptation of, but more on that when the time is right. For now though, hi Majinga reference, now there's a cash cow they could never stop referencing. A subtle yet still surprising reference was the Gangrene Gang doing their take on the Cyborg 009 opening of all things. But yeah, along with them, we got some cool shots of the girls as rogues gallery like Sedusa, Princess, those brats, and him appropriately taking the biggest spotlight considering what the latter half of the series is going to entail. Overall, I would say this is an even better opening than the first, which was already pretty good in its own right, though this one manages to hit all of the right nostalgia buttons for me. Our episode proper opened on Keen Sensei sharing her experience eating at a conveyor belt sushi restaurant. Okay, so I actually looked this up because I honestly thought it couldn't be for real, but as it turns out, there really are automated sushi machines in Japan and they've been around for a while. While I've personally never eaten at any sort of automated sushi restaurant, comes with having a grandfather who was really picky about his fish, it does seem legit, though I do agree with Kaoru here. To me, sushi, like a lot of foods really, tastes best when it has all of those little imperfections that can only come from being handmade, that give it a personality and taste that can't be recreated by a machine. And I think Kim's Particles agreed with me and decided to give them more than just a personality. Either that or they just created a bunch of small baozo. The lead role is played by Wataru Takagi, so maybe Bumby just found a new job working for the bundles. Anyway, the girls were dispatched. Well, okay, your fart joke gets a pass just for that, barely. They discovered that the sushi monsters were trying to figure out who was the most popular slab of rice and fish by seeing who could get eaten first. Eat me! This must be what Yui's nightmares look like. The sheer number of mini ubaozo proved to be overwhelming for the girls, so Kaoru sent the source of their creation, the sushi machine, blasting off again. Gee, I wonder if the writer of this episode is also a bit of a sushi purist. Still, there was the matter of the little guys who were still on Earth. Well, that's probably far from the worst thing that public fountain has been polluted with over the years. Conveniently, the prof also brought some chemical solution-laced sauce that would turn them back to normal. Thus, after a really over-dramatic speech from Momoko, the little bits of raw seafood turned back to normal. From there, the girls ate the fountain-soaked sushi that had been on the ground. Yeah, forget about the wasabi, y'all should probably go get a certain test. Anyway, the blacklight sushi machine was still functioning, but fortunately, it and its products had found some clientele who didn't mind eating the still sentient creatures, so yeah. Oh. Wanna get some pizza? The second part of the episode opened with Princess either wreaking havoc or helping Nier escape from light. That clip has become a lot more topical these days. As usual, the girls made quick work of her, and thankfully, it wasn't too late this time, and in fact, they had some time to have dinner with the profs. Okay, I'm not gonna say this version of Utonium is worse than the other versions, but he is a lot weirder, and that's all I'll say about that. They headed out, leaving Peach to watch the lab, as well as an unexpected guest. Of course, being the pet of one of their more hostile villains, the girls didn't have the best impression of Sapphire, which they ended up implanting on their dog. Though it didn't stop Peach from translating in character everything she said. As a result, he did get closer to the kitty, especially after it seemed like she would play with him. Well, as long as he can play better than Kathy, or really any female duelist from that season. They ended up playing some Old Maid, and partway into it, Sapphire asked for some water, and rightfully so, Peach suspected that she might try to cheat, but as it turned out, she didn't. Or rather, she didn't need to. I'll admit though, some of these scenes were kind of cute, even when the Robo-Pooch did start to sound like the great beast of humanity. In the process, he did seem to discover a deeper side to Sapphire, and how she is only putting on the front of a haughty, selfish cat in order to maintain the image of her owner. Now, this would be an interesting twist, especially considering some later developments in this show, but just hold that thought for a minute. We also got some confirmation on Peach's gender, with him choosing to be male, mostly just so they could be a total simp. They then just kind of danced to the Waltz of the Flowers just to make this interspecies romance even more blatant and cheesy. Well, still a better love story than... You know what, I'll let you finish that sentence. Anyway, the girls and the profs then returned, and since they weren't alone anymore, Sapphire revealed her true colors in that she was just playing with the Robo-Dog. Yep, no deeper character stuff or anything, just another jerk-ass cat from Courage the Cowardly Dog or something. Thankfully, Peach did get some immediate revenge, and while this did result in Himiko transforming again, she was also KO'd, so they can deal with that in the morning. Moreover, while his first love was a bust, he did manage to make some new friends with the neighborhood dogs, who just kind of randomly figured they would try to play cards with him. Maybe they just saw that one painting, ending this weird little tale, at least on a happy note. Along with the second OP, this episode also saw the debut of the third ending theme, Passing Rain by Wiz Us. And much like how the previous ending theme represented Momoko, this one was Kaoru's theme. The song itself seemed to be the tale of a couple of lovers parting ways in the rain, possibly breaking up, but leaving on the hopeful note that they'll be able to rekindle their relationship. And while that obviously didn't exactly apply to Kaoru of all characters, the more somber tune did a good job representing her reluctance to get closer to her teammates, not just because she viewed them as too girly, but also possibly not wanting to become weak, as very subtly told to her looking at a little sister crying in front of her brother. And yet, as the passing rain cleared up, she was able to reflect on her own experiences with her brothers and realize that showing a little weakness doesn't actually make you weak, especially if you have the courage to open yourself up to others. Needless to say, this was another beautifully done ending, and while I personally prefer the previous one based on my own personal taste, I like the song and visuals there more, this was a very close second for me, and honestly, I think it's a highly underrated ending theme. It acts as a really good cool-off to a rather goofy show, whilst also giving you an appreciation for the friends and family you have. Hard to get much better than that. Though, as for this episode itself, it was another fine, really weird outing, to say the least. Granted, the major appeal of the show is its devil-may-cry attitude when it comes to just doing whatever sort of adventure they want, and while they can go a little far at times, it's hard to deny that it's a unique experience, to say the least. Thus, while the best parts of this episode were the opening and ending, like a cheap sushi roll, the stuff in the middle wasn't bad either. I'll give the show this, I didn't think I'd ever see a reverse sausage party play out with some very flamboyant sushi, but it gave it to us, and it was every bit as insane as that sounds. And if anything, they certainly committed to the idea and took it to all of the logical extremes. which, just based on that, did lead to some good laughs just for the absurdity of it all. It certainly made it more memorable than the love story between the Robo-Dog and the hottie cat. And while this one did have some cute moments, mostly thanks to Peach, it also did play out like a very by-the-numbers cheesy romance that didn't even really end in romance and thus is kind of pointless. It at least did end on a happy ending and did show a different side to the little guy. However, I would have preferred more time be dedicated to the cat's master, which thankfully we will get a lot more in the next episode. So overall, like Cheap Sushi, this was just okay, and you're probably just better off focusing on the tastier side dishes. Work on the Tropical Rouge overview is going about as well as it can, and as long as we can get some recordings done by the end of this week, we should have it out maybe by the next. We've certainly got a lot of mileage out of this series, and while we're not going to close the door on it, at least not until we read the official manga, it is high time we moved on to other things, which have been on the back burner for a while, and I do want to start tackling, as well as maybe some additional content for the current season. There's a lot to look forward to, so do just that. Until then though, farewell for now my friends, and did someone forget to lock her cage again? Get her back in before the Apocrypha event starts.